Chapter 26. A Bug in a Bottle. Nothing. No pain. Was I already dead? I opened my eyes. The girl slumped forward, eyes big and cloudy, face pale. What the? I shoved her to the side onto the ground. You're welcome, man. Marv stood a few feet in front of me, behind where the girl just was, that infamous stupid grin stuck on his face. Even amid all the thunderous gunshots and bodies that kept thudding to the ground all around us, he couldn't keep away that ridiculous smile. He lowered his gun. She almost had you, man. Oh, Marv, thank... His smile vanished as the color drained from his face. Marv? I asked. He dropped to his knees, then fell face first onto the ground in front of me. Suddenly, he was the only person on the stage, the only person who existed. Everything else, all the bodies that fell and whirled, all the shouts and deafening gunshots, disappeared. Oh, I barely heard myself say as I crawled toward him. Two bright red spots expanded on his back. I grabbed him and turned him around. Marv, talk to me. I placed an arm under his head and propped him up. He gazed up at me. His eyes looked like they were focused on a star somewhere in outer space. Marv, come on, say something. I couldn't lose him. Not now. Not after all this. A half grin formed on his face, which made him look real goofy. Hey, man, he said in a feebled voice. Snap out of it. I gotta tell you something before I go. You're not going any... You were right. You know that? You were right all along. And I was wrong. Living like a bug in a bottle is no good, man. His head moved slightly from side to side. Okay, now I know you're talking crazy. Here, try to get up. I'm serious, man. You were right to follow your curiosity, and what you and your girl did, it was the most important thing anybody's ever done. It took me only a couple hours of hunting in that stupid tribe to realize it. His half grin turned bitter. And also for me to realize I was never any good at hunting. Marv admitted he was bad at something? No, this wasn't good at all. That's not true. You're real good. And then it hit me, man. You and Stasha had a chance to change Middleton's history for the better, and there I was, stuck doing something I'd always stunk at. Forget about the fact the tribe wanted me to help out in the invasion, too. He chuckled, which sounded a little more high-pitched than usual, and goosebumps sprouted on my arms. Please tell me he's gonna be okay. It's funny, you know, he said. I was one of the kids who had the least amount of skills in my nurture faction growing up. Best day of my life was when I barely qualified for game hunter. Thought I'd be a lowly housekeeper forever, you know. Well, might as well have been one, man. Wouldn't have made horse crap of a difference. Precious power, he was really losing it, but I had to keep him talking, so I said, I don't know about that, but I am wondering how you showed the evidence to everybody in Middleton in such a short amount of time. Marv's bitter half grin grew into a genuine smile. I didn't. I only showed 2 patrol factions, and that was only because they were the closest I could find right next to each other. That explained why 2 patrol factions made up the first row of the crowd. I figured any patrol factions I could find should be the first to know because, you know, they'll be able to attack the rulers with their guns, especially since they'd have to do it as soon as possible. Great thinking, Marv. That's priceless, and I meant it. And no wonder his plan worked. It wasn't like the patrol officers were the Badalux family's loyal servants, who'd always do their bidding. The mansion might have been gigantic, but it wasn't nearly big enough for all of them to live in. Is he okay? Stasha's voice, full of worry, came from above us. Yeah, he'll be fine, I said, more for Marv than anybody, though I had a sinking feeling that threatened to pull me into the ground and bury me. I looked around. A mass of bodies lay on the ground. Mansion guards in black suits and patrol officers in blue uniforms who'd attacked them, but no more guards stood, only a bunch of patrol officers. They'd formed a crowd at the edge of the stage. Some talked with the other kids in the field, maybe telling them about the evidence and why they just killed the mansion's guards. Some officers gawked at me, Marv, and Stasha, but I couldn't have cared less. The first fight, anyway, was over. The patrol had outnumbered the manor's guards by a dozen, so no wonder it won the battle. Or maybe more accurately, you won the battle, Marv, I said. Now you've done one of the most important things in the history of Middleton. Marv waved a hand, as though to push the idea away. It's not done yet, man. You gotta get everyone to the mansion, but before you do, I got a couple more things to say." He took in a long, shuddering breath, as if he'd need every last bit of energy he had for what he was about to say. "Please, Power, don't let this be the end. For one, I forgive you for getting me in trouble with the law, for everything, man. Like I said, you were right all along." "Okay, thanks, Marv, but it's really not And one last thing, and I really mean this." His voice was so weak and low now, I had to lean my head down further to hear him. He reached out a shaky hand and grabbed my free arm. "Shh," Stasha said. "No more talking. You need to get some rest." Marv squeezed my arm. "You were the best friend a guy could ask for." Then his eyes dimmed to a milky color, and his head sagged against my arm. "Marv! No, come back!" I cried. "Come on, you're gonna make it!" But he didn't move anymore. I wrapped my arms around him and just lay there for what felt like 17 years. I couldn't stop tears from pouring from my eyes. Stasha's hand rested lightly on my back. How could he be gone? It just didn't make sense. If anything, I should have been the one to die, not him. "I hate to say this," Stasha said after a few minutes, "but we really ought to get moving. We have some paramount stuff to do." But I kept hugging Marv for a couple more minutes, and she didn't say anything. At last I let go, climbed to my feet, and wiped the tears away. Stasha stood behind me. The patrol officers at the edge of the stage and the kids beyond all stared at us, brows creased and tears in most of their eyes too. Stasha and I went to the patrol officers, who huddled around us. "This shouldn't be too hard." My voice came out strangled, so I swallowed the knot in my throat. The officers all looked at me earnestly. Even one smiled encouragingly despite his glassy eyes. "There's a guard in charge of opening the gate. If a few of you put on some of these, dead kids' suits and head over, the gatekeeper will think you're them and let you in." Even as I spoke, I couldn't help but think how some of the dead kids, not the mansion guards, but the patrol members, were the officers' good friends too. I wasn't the only one who'd had a terrible loss in this battle. "After you take him out, you should be able to take control of the mansion. I mean, you all have guns. You've already taken out a few of the mansion's guards, and even though it's a pretty massive manor, there are so many more patrol officers than them." "We're on it," said a girl officer with fierce, narrowed eyes. "Oh, and if Marv didn't already tell you," I said, 3 nearby towns are going to invade Middleton in about an hour or less, so get that done as fast as you can." Nobody even blinked, so I took it Marv already told them. "As soon as you've taken over the mansion, come back to this field and tell me, and we'll all, and by all I mean all of Middleton's citizens, head over to the mansion and use it as a stronghold against the attack. Sound good?" A tall boy officer with massive, muscly arms nodded. The gold badge on his shirt meant he was a patrol faction leader. "I'll give the instructions to the citizens and tell them to stay put for the time being." "Excellent," I said. The rest of the patrol officers went to work taking off the dead guards' clothes. The patrol leader held out the camera to me and Stasha. "But first you might as well take this back. And might I say, I personally have the utmost respect for both of you guys and Marv." Stasha and I said thanks as she put the camera in her pocket. Then the officer joined the others. We wrapped Marv up in his and my faction's flag, which he landed on when he got shot. "We'll hold a funeral for him whenever we get the opportunity," Stasha said. Her shoulders still drooped. "We'll have it at the mansion, and everybody will be invited. And we'll raise this flag in his honor." I reached down and gently pushed Marv's eyelids down. A couple of my tears dripped onto the stage. "Rest in peace, old buddy."